Welcome everyone to the June Intercontinental Mastermind. We are going to stream on Facebook for Facebook users that find it more easily. So here we go. And let's give it a moment. And so that you know, for all of you Zoom users, you can do that, pretty sure for free. You can do it also live on YouTube. Maybe one day we'll do all three at once. So technology gets better and better. Don't you love that? Okay, here we go. Okay, so I think, let me see. How's the headset?
Fine.
Good, okay. So here we go. We're starting on Clubhouses as well. Increase the volume. Make sure you all follow me, Dr. Pezzini. I'll follow you back. So here we are with our amazing technology. Let me share this screen. Okay, and welcome, Chris. New people, we love that. All right, can you all see the screen?
Yes.
Right.
Well, welcome everyone.
Yes, I'll welcome you, Michael. Sorry, give me a second. We're using a lot of technology and bandwidth, and I'm in my office, my summer office away, and he doesn't like the music. So you'll have to be my music. There you go. I think we're doing too many things at once. So I just wanted to say that what is a mastermind? A mastermind is just a friendly forum to really put our minds and hearts together. We like the diversity. We like being intercontinental and have leaders from all over the world. And we also like to give it specific themes, and especially themes that you crave, that you ask for, that you need, that you want, that can help you progress, not only this year, this decade, but for the rest of your long, happy, and strong life. So as we get to know one another, all our You Have Got the Power members, you have been interested in numbers and how numbers run our lives. So I'm a big, I'm a scientist, and I also value the arts, and I know you all do too. So numbers don't lie. When we share numbers of years of your experience, numbers of courses, education that you take, numbers of clients that you serve, customers or patients, some of you, yeah, that you help, numbers of the results you and your the people you help achieve, whether it's an increase, improvement with percentages or numbers, etc., etc. So numbers don't lie, and numbers in history have been running our lives in a way, because when we refer back, don't we refer back to, okay, pivotal dates in our life. So obviously we had a big pivotal year last year, 2020. We're making history and so on and so forth. So are there scientific signs that can help us with our career development, with our personal development moving forward? Let's explore. There is no right or wrong. We like to offer a variety of tools to help you make decisions. And then, of course, you take what works for you and what doesn't. One last thing I wanted to say before we introduce our special co-host is let's see. So with numbers, yeah, so yeah, okay, sorry. There's just so much to say, but basically the last thing I'm gonna say is, some people really look at the moon. Right now I'm looking at the beach, it's foggy, we get the marine layer. So some people, including our medical doctors we coach, say, yes, okay, on full moon, Dr. Divgi tells us all the time, on full moon, somehow we get a ton of, she's retired, but used to get a ton of patients in the emergency room. Why? Is there a correlation? A lot of my business owners we collaborate with, or entrepreneurs, only start new projects on a certain type of moon. Is there a correlation for success or not? Okay, so we have someone who's really good at numbers, who volunteered in helping us with these new tools and see how that could connect to our lives and, again, our decision making. So, and he has been studying it all his life and has helped his life tremendously. So please, everybody, help me welcome, give a very warm welcome to Mr. Michael Lloyd from Down Under. And welcome, Michael. And thank you for doing this. So let's unmute you. There you go. I'll make you the co-host. There you are. And so take it away. Who are you? Tell us a little more. How you got involved into this fascinating subject.
Yes, well, thank you, Elena. Thank you. And what it is a tricky introduction, especially it is such a vast thing to bridge an esoteric field, numerology, which is sometimes seen along the lines of astrology, even tarot or energy work, or some people see it as a science, other people see it as very wishy-washy. To bring that across and to look at the fact that we do touch numbers all the time. We've got a house number, a registration number for this and that. And there's the famous things of numerology, of course, the name and the birth date that we are born with. And I will say a few things about myself to you all, especially I believe Chris, who's joined us, who I'm not sure if I've met you before, but everyone else I think knows me to some degree from attendance to the MasterMind, and that's my current self working in high-end gardening work in my own gardening business. It's been a journey to end up there. I did run a full-time numerology business in the 90s after several years of research, and there weren't a lot of mentors. There wasn't a university to go to. There are the secret societies and the various places that claim ownership over the more esoteric sides of knowledge. And I had to create some alliances there. They don't let you do anything without creating a fuss if you don't. But I remained independent and looked at it. And I think more from a scientific point of view than most of the people in the field with the numerology. It was about getting right into that 3 + 4 = 7, and 3 had a meaning and 4 had a meaning and a 7 had a meaning. And I started playing in that movement between structure and meaning. So anyway, I'll try and get back to my notes now. I'm in Melbourne, Australia, and I closed the business nearly 20 years ago, but I've kept an interest in it, and I wanted to run my own life without leaning on the numbers for at least a decade. So I didn't know my friend's birth date last year. I didn't know like the new friends. I didn't ask them their birth dates. I didn't have to know their middle name, and I didn't need to know what personal year I was in or anything like that. But these things are there, and they can be extremely accurate. So numerology is basically the science of position and meaning.
To say that so that everybody knows what to expect. Hold on to the questions, and maybe just ask them in the chat box. We'll give you time at the end as well. And Michael has been so kind a while back to run my numbers based on my chart, where I was born, blah, blah, blah. And he got it right and predicted some spooky stuff that I don't even know how he was able to do it. So today will stay general as it pertains to everybody's growth moving forward this decade and further. If you want specifics about yourself, then obviously we cannot do it in a group setting, but Michael has volunteered to give you a nice gift, personalized gift, and he'll tell you at the end. Yes, Michael?
Yeah.
All right, fantastic. So So the ancient Greek and then the Romans after that, our descendants, why were they so interested in numerology? We see it in the graffiti, in what are they called? Archaeology. And yeah, so what is that all about? Tell us, enlighten us.
I guess in simplicity, people wanted to make sense out of the random. And people are always trying to build systems and things where we don't have all the facts. We're always trying to assume we know what something is before we know what it is. Different numbers came up, I guess, were associated with chance, and some were associated with good fortune and bad fortune. These sorts of interests have commonly had things lumped with good and bad. That's one thing I attempted to break as I went into it, that all the numbers had to be good when they were used right in the right place, so because they were all part of our creation. So the buildings used to use, even in the Bible, they talk about ancient temples and things. They used certain numbers of cubics for widths and heights. And the alphabets themselves were the beginning of language, all had to do with analysts sitting around allocating, like in the Greek, I think it was the alphabet or all this sort of stuff related to originally things like animals and different parts of life were given a letter, and the letters had a number meaning and number position, and then words were created and they were all linked with phonetics, and the whole structure of language, the patterns are in it, and the people that built the languages either knew the patterns or were, dare we say, channeling them or intuiting them from a more evolved place, naturally building them into what they were creating. But it is tricky. It's been worshipped by a lot of kings and emperors and things to have a personal consultant, largely astrology. And you will find, I'm not going to go into it too much, but the two fields mix amazingly. If you go get a numerology reading for your name and date, and then you go get a birth chart from an astrologer, if they're both done well, you'll find the very, very similar content to an astounding level, which I think is the biggest proof of the validity of both fields, since those processes are completely separate to come up with those readings. But astrologers have always held high counsel. Now, there's always going to be frauds, and there's always going to be people that say, oh, you've got this, it means that. And maybe that isn't really what that means. So it's one thing to observe the patterns and to sort of work the systems and do our own analysis. It's very dangerous to hyperinterpret or take on things that are a bit mystical in their rationale and lean on them really strongly. And, so there's a few cautions with it all. Now, it's basically the science of position and meaning, not just with dates and addresses, but also with words and names via alphabet correlations. There are versions of it for all ancient societies, China, India, Arabia, Greece. There are different systems, including the Jewish Kabbalah and Gematria, and the Chaldean number system, and a few other complex systems. The Chinese have their own systems. In my sense of research, they all work, which is a fascinating thing in itself. It's a bit like, I used to think about language too, how we can all talk our dinner, our transport and everything in completely different bunches of words and still have that ability. It's about energy going through different gateways, or however you choose to see that. We mostly use the Pythagorean numerology system. So that's what I'm going to be talking about today. And it'll mean that if you meet someone that's into numerology and you've done this little workshopy hour thing, you'll have a few insights that you can build on, and you'll be able to say, oh, look, this is my day number. This is my ruling number. This is my understanding of it. Can you add to that? And it's a bit of a common language with the Pythagorean system. And it's very simple the way it works with letters and words, but that's also something I'm not going to go too much into today, turning words into numbers. But basically the letters from 1 to 26 get numbered by that number. And as I go into dealing with double-digit numbers, we end up with a resonance for each letter, and then we can work it through our name.
So alphabetical letters, everybody.
So the letter C would be a 3.
This is quite, we're trying to dismantle a lot, right, in an hour. So I want to make sure everybody's, Michael, you're doing great. I want to make sure everybody is following so far. Yeah, give me a head, yes. So So, yes?
Yeah, type yes in the chat box, folks.
So we're talking
We're going to
about
get the chat box going soon.
alphabetical letters, like, does your first name mean anything? Michael, Bernice, Gary, Elena, Shannon, Veronica, Yolanda, and so on. And what about the last name? And what about all other names you may have in between as well? Does that shape your life? Yeah. Okay. So those are all questions. And so in numerology, Michael uses charts. We don't understand them, but what can you say in general? Go, and maybe you can give us examples, Michael.
Into the chart process. Well, firstly, I'll just talk about the way we create a number resonance. Some people think this is oversimplification or it's not a feasible step, but it's a very consistently applied step. And when you start to see the system working, then it becomes a valid step, almost like a step in mathematics.
Yeah.
But in numerology in general, we create a resonance from a number by adding all the digits up together. So if you've got the number 25, you add the 2 and the 5 and you get a 7. And if you've got the number 130, you're adding the 1 and the 3 and the 0 to get a 4. Now, sometimes you've got to do it twice. If you've got a 95, you add 9 and 5 together and you've got 14. You simply do it again. You add the 1 and the 4 until you got a 5. Now, I'd call that the basic number reduction process. And you bring all the digits down to 1 digit. And that's commonly used in the chart, in the creation of a chart, because various different parts of the numerology chart you get with your name and birth date come from adding things up.
Okay, Michael, I think that part, let's give an example. Let's pick a volunteer. Anybody wants to volunteer with your first name? We'll use it as an example. Let us know in the chat box. Anybody? Gary? Okay, is that you? Okay, Yolanda. So pick everybody. Everybody wants to be picked. So pick one of either Gary, Yolanda, or Bernice. And let's figure out how you come up with the one number for that name, so we can follow.
Right. Well, I'll go with Gary for starters because it's an interesting situation. Because like any, it is consistent, but there are rules, and I won't go into teaching them all. But Y is considered as a vowel, and the vowels and the consonants are considered separate. So we end up with, from the first name Gary, we end up with quite a bit of information if you want to go straight into the name thing. So from the vowels, which are then considered A and Y, get values 1 and 7, and they add together to give an 8.
Yeah.
And the consonants, that's the G and the R, that's a 7 and a 9. They add together to give a 16, which adds down to get a 7. And so then we can look at I was actually going to bring in the more concepts before getting to the name, but there's an inner, which is what people can't see about us. It's a driving force more within us, and that's the sum of the consonants. And there's an expression or an image, which is the outer expression, and that comes from the consonants there. So the vowels, the inner, and the consonants are the outer. And in Gary's case, you've got an 8 and a 7, which is very, very interesting as well, because later on, as I generally talk a bit about compatibilities, and I haven't brought in meanings really yet, but the 7 is more rebellious and the 8 is more compliant, to put it quite interesting. They're just aspects of the meanings of the numbers. So you've got an inner of 8, which is highly responsible. It's managerial. It's very aware of systems, cause and effect. It's very structural, all that sort of stuff. And the outer expression of 7 is more the image of the rebel, or a person that's on about change and doesn't need to accept the way things have to be done. So it's a powerful combination because the people warm to the 7 quite a lot more than they warm to the 8, which can be sort of a bit overbearing, and this is how it gets done. And the 7's more so, but we see the way the name has different aspects to it. It's got a first letter impact, which is the 7. So it's really strongly goes with the meanings there. And I'll get to the meanings actually very, very shortly. Well, I will integrate all of you with it. Try to stick with me and it'll get quite clear what the basics of, nearly through the basics. So we've talked about
Good
what
job.
it is saying, numerology is basically saying that numbers have got a meaning as well as a value. So if you come up with a 3, it means you got 3 cans of paint. It might also mean that the project's a little bit more social than if you had 4 cans of paint, which might be a hard work job. And so the numbers tend to give a different flavor to the things we're looking at. And we looked at how a resonance works. We add the digits together to get a single digit resonance. It's a very important part of overall numerology. And what's in the basic chart? Yeah, there's the birth date and the name. And from the birth date, you can calculate all sorts of different things that have meanings in context. But you've basically got things like a day number, which is the day of the month we're born on. And we've got a ruling number, which is when you add all the digits of the whole birth date up together down to one resonance. Now, a lot of people last century used to forget the 1 and the 9. So you get people adding up the 10th of June, 65, and they wouldn't be adding the 19 in. But in our case, this is another big interest to the field because all the birth dates now don't carry the 1, they carry the 2. And astrology also talks about, the age of Aquarius and the coming of a big new shift. But we've got millennialism and a lot of things changing, but that 1 changes to a 2, and that affects all of the birth dates this century. So you've got the name, you've got the birth date, and you end up getting a whole lot of qualities about yourself as we look into what the numbers mean, which is what I want to do now. You can see the numbers from 1 to 9 as like a project in a very linear fashion, and it really helps to get the meanings of them. They do jump about all over the place in life, but in a linear fashion from 1 to 9, essentially 1 is the beginnings and 9 is the completions.
Is there
it's like a project.
No.
Sorry, Elena.
Is there a 0? No.
There is a 0. When I'm reading a day number, like say about to talk about the meaning of the number 1, which is initiation, starting points, leadership, independence, and assertiveness. Later I'll get to the transits. When people get into a 1 transit, like they're going through a 1 period in their life, it can seem like, what's going on? Nobody's pushing me around. I don't have to do anything. The freedom of starting something new, some of those bonds of the momentum of what we're involved in start to drop off. And the 1 is really on their own more. And they need to get very good confidence, self-esteem, and just move forward with that leadership sort of approach.
Okay, and quickly, we're talking about charts so that everybody follows. So let's say another language, not just the 26 Western alphabetical letters. Let's say Hebrew letters or Chinese letters. Do they also go with the 26, or is there a different reading for that?
The Hebrew letters are given meanings that are quite abstract. Like a letter might have a numeric correspondence of 126 or 260 or 1,000. And so if we imagine the Hebrew letters was ABC, instead of C being 3, it might be 46.
Okay.
They have some and you add it together and you get very, very large numbers. And there are number systems that the Jewish culture and some cultures use where they have precise meanings to numbers, like 755 would have a meaning for 755. And it's a very, very large field. The one thing I can say about it is I've checked them all out and they all seem to work. And the people that Jewish culture, for example, has a lot of initiation you have to do and a lot of rules around it. Like you're not allowed to study it before you're something like 35 years of age. And traditionally you had to be male in that context as well. Women weren't allowed to study it. So it was regarded as a fearful territory of knowledge that was very carefully guarded. And I think a lot of that is that it can be manipulated. There's a lot of responsibility that goes into looking at things like this. And we especially shouldn't be manipulating other people. Like some people, they learn the basics off me and they're straight away chewing into their partner's name and birth date. What can I do here? It's all the systems have it. And even in the English language, there's another system called the Chaldean system where, again, multiple digit numbers are associated with each letter, and you would never understand the rationale. You'd have to study a letter for a year to understand everything about that.
Got it. Good job.
But
So, all this stuff is a little brainy for us, so we gotta go. Are you done with the basics? And then
nine
really
number meanings.
Yeah. So
Nine number meanings. Hang on, I'll just do a 2 seconds here. I'm going to do a cut and paste into the chat box as well.
Good job. Good job. You're doing great. Isn't Michael doing great? It's not an easy topic to explain. There's a lot involved. You're getting a PhD in numerology in 1 hour. So, okay. So, okay.
I've just popped up the number meanings. I'll run through it like a project really quickly. So 1 is initiation and you start things up. 2 is, it's sometimes seen as a gestation period, and it's got a lot to do with the proper timing of the project, and things become more real and apparent in the 2. 1's a bit like a seed zone. It's starting, but you can't see the evidence. And in the 2, it's about cooperation and teamwork and timing.
Okay, and what are our numbers? Gary's what number?
Hang on. 3 is about communication and flexibility and going with the flow.
Yeah.
And then 4 is about structure, where you've got boundaries and it's fixed and you're getting down to a very set, clear, repetitive action, almost mundane work, that kind of thing. And 5 breaks out of that. It says, we're never going to get to the 9 where we're headed for unless we find new ways of doing it. And it's about imagination and new structural ways of doing things and breaking out of the boundaries of the 4 as well. And then 6 is about restoring balance. 5 could have got a bit crazy, 4 could have been a bit much. And 6 focuses more about balance as a general meaning center. And then in 7, there's analysis and reflection and healing.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I want to make sure everybody follows. So are we supposed to pick one number that our name corresponds out of these 10 numbers, or what do these numbers correspond to? Dates, names?
Well, it ends up being, the simple of it all is we've all got all the 9 numbers somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
We have a relationship with all of these 9 areas of life. This is where it becomes, as you coined the expression, the universal principles. The things have endings, and no matter how much of a beginning kind of person you are, you're going to have endings as things move on and that. Things have mundane routine aspects to it, and you can get stuck in that for as long as you like, but somewhere, whether you want to be the manager or somebody else is going to employ you, or you're going to plug into the government, there's an 8 over that 4, which gives context to that hard work. And so what is just bringing the importance of all the 9 aspects, and we can look at how they affect our chart. The simplest take home and easiest way I can do it is go to our day number of a birthday. For example, I'm born on the 3rd. What you might all like to do is contemplate the day that you're born on, and perhaps maybe pop it in the chat box if you're comfortable to do that. And I'll know I'll have a bunch of day numbers, but we end up being a bunch of ingredients. So if our day number is 7 because we're born on the 25th, then the 7 is a strong part of the meaning of who we are. That's our personality, our style is very strongly wrapped up in that day number. So you can get a lot just from the meaning and the day of the month we're born on. But then the 25 has a 2 and a 5 in it, as well as adding to a 7. So we end up having a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and a little bit of that. So I find the more you see the relevance of it, the more you'll start to explore the structure and see benefits more. So, but just quickly through the process. So we've restored the balance in things in 6 because 5 was a change and everything, all our structures got broken and the computer went down. We had to upgrade, move premises, and we're still trying to be that by the time we get to number 9, but things have all changed in the 5. And then the 6 is getting back to balance and community and all inclusive and all of that sort of stuff. And 7 is like, okay, it's been a bit of a journey, but there are some deep wounds and we haven't gotten over them. We've just moved on and picked up the pieces. 7, I mean, the 7th day was the day of reflection, religiously, spiritually. There's a lot of reflection in the 7, and often we have to realize that we are wounded, or we did have a hard time there, even though we're strong and we're tough and it doesn't matter. The real practical value of the 7 is that after this cycle is completed, there is another cycle, and it's got a lot to do with baggage, actually. we can't sometimes start that thing until we've finished this thing and gotten over this thing, or we won't finish it properly unless we learn something about ourselves that we're not admitting to. And so, or whatever, the 7 holds a lot of healing, and I call it clearing things up for ourselves, clearing our energy up and getting closer to the true us as well. It's a very private time, the 7 as well. And then the 8 is about overviewing everything. I put the key word of management with the 8. So you're really trying to bridge 2 things at the 8, and it's ever present. You're trying to bridge the beginning, the number 1, and the end, number 9. When you're running a project, you track that project. So the 8's sort of going, okay, are we on time? Are we going to make it to the 9? Have we got this right? Is that right? And it's also about responding to hiccups or problems or crises by knowing the vision and knowing all about the project, every bit of it. So 8's sort of like the eagle in the sky looking down on the project.
Michael, sorry, I'm going to interrupt you for a moment because because I'm not clear, and chances are somebody else may not clear, so everybody can follow. So are we looking at like Shannon 24? So 2 + 4 = 6. Is she looking at the 6, or what are these numbers referring to? To like a day?
Right.
We have a project starting. Give us some examples. Otherwise, they're just numbers, and we don't understand.
Yep. So Shannon 24th adds to a 6. So there are qualities just, that can be read from this that give me some insight into some skills and abilities that you are very likely to have and operate with at work, in relationships, all sorts of things. The 6, as an essence, restores balance, and as a quality sees both sides of things. It's a little bit astrologically like the Gemini in that regard. And some people used to say, oh, what are the Geminis on about? 1 minute they're telling everyone to be quiet, next minute they're making heaps of noise. Firstly, they were in a noisy room, and then they were in a quiet room. So there was a rationale behind their input, even though it seems like they're flipping all over the place. They were interested in balance. Restoring the balance takes us to some really strange territories in order to honor that ideal. The 4 is very practical and productive and down to it. They can work really hard. They can do the 1,000 faxes or whatever has to be done administratively. And so 4's within boundaries, systemized work and getting through things. The 2 represents an intuition, which very much helps when you want to do a whole lot of work because you don't want to get the timing wrong. And it helps us as well pick up on other people a little bit too. The strong energy 1 in a chart is very self-focused, self-driven. The strong energy 2, the intuitive, is very aware of timing and sometimes where other people are at that nothing can explain. It's intuition. And intuition by definition with the numerology system is not rationally explainable. So if you could have worked that out, it's not really an example of intuition. When you get an idea that you need to do something a bit different from normal and there's no explanation for it, and you can't even understand why you would go so far away from the norm, and it was exactly what that situation ended up needing, that's the intuition. And it's like a feeling that people get. There's an example how you can work the numbers. If you know intuition's in your chart, you can get better at intuition. You can use it more and more as a strength by identifying what it is and how to work with it. And then if you look at the 24th, say it's different from the 15th because the ingredients are different. You've got a 2 and a 4. And on its own 24th is sometimes, I'll get later on into the self-development a bit more, a slightly negative side of the 24th is they could be overly disgruntled by things not being right enough, or being seen as seeing too much fault in things. And this is where if they're tired or under pressure, the energy becomes out of balance. And then the qualities of seeing how good things could be and seeing both sides of things become a little bit too extreme. So, and everyone has this, everyone has the balanced use of their day and then a bit over or a bit under. But the 24th, just to sort of give a rounded reading, can be seen as critical, and to put the positive on that and to probably sign it off on the 24th, these people always know how something can be improved. And that is a skill, an asset, very, very valuable. Got to keep up the charisma and the charm and let that wisdom sort of hit the scene, and those improvements will happen.
Okay.
So how do you feel about that, Shannon?
I think that sounds about right. Yeah, I find that in some of my processes where I stay on top of people, I kind of micromanage them, and there's like, just back off, Shannon. I'm like, yeah, but it could be done a little bit better, and this is how you could do it. Yeah. So I agree with that. Thank you.
Right.
Right. We'll just say quickly then on a couple of other ones here. Bernice.
Actually, let's do, because I want to make sure everybody can relate. So Bernice can follow on a particular number later. I think we need to figure out, like, how do we look at these numbers to maybe know if this is the right month to start a new project, or if we should collaborate with somebody or plan our future, you know, or compatibility. I mean, can you give us some general examples, even as they pertain to you? Because I don't think we are clear yet on how to use the numbers. How are you guys doing? Does anybody have any question? Feel free to unmute.
Right. Well, I'm just going to say, I do hope you're all enjoying it, and I'm sorry for wandering off. I've got a structure, but I'm also trying to integrate with questions that Elena's coming up with, where she's gleaning whether or not it's coming across well for everyone. But the birth date has your day number, has your month number, has your ruling number, and it's got this other thing called the grid, which is all of the digits. So some birth date might have a lot of ones in it, like the 11th of the 1st, 1971 or something. And so all the numbers in it are in the grid, and that's another look. And then there's the transits, which I'm about to jump into, with a personal year number for everyone. And that's all from the birth date. The name's got the full name at birth, or just the first name, or the name that you go with, like your nickname. And there's people doing name changes, which is fascinating, because they come across with the name change to me and they say, what do you think about this name? And the numbers half the time are the same as the name they're changing from, which is another interesting thing about the way creation puts energy into situation. And the names, as I briefly touched on, get quite interesting with the inner or the vowels and the outer or the image. And then you've got the whole lot added together, which is called the path. And the lessons are on our path. And we've got two big paths, one from the birth date and one from the name. So the ruling number of the birth date, I think, would be worth, just quickly, even if it heads into the question and answer time, getting that for everybody. So they got the ruling number, because that's the asset. You don't have to add it up. If you meet a numerologist, you can say, oh, I'm told that I'm a ruling number 7, which I used to hear from people all the time. I go, have you heard of numerology? And they go, don't know much, but I'm told I'm a 6, or I'm told I'm a 3. And so that does become a basic compatibility with the field. The 9 meanings that I put forth in key words it's very helpful if you ever want to glean more of the meaning prior to looking it up on the web or getting a book on the topic, is just to think of that project, and where 1 is the beginnings and 9 is the endings. And I popped the meanings up briefly in the chat box, and I strongly encourage everybody to do either a screenshot or a cut and paste of that. You've got some really important concepts. 1's initiation, 2 sort of intuition, timing, teamwork, 3's talking, social, taking it out there, 4's boundaries, productivity, 5's imagination and change, 6 is seeing both sides, restoring the balance, 7's healing and personal healing and analysis, 8's management, where 8's are the busybodies in a way, because they know, not only do they know themselves fairly well, they know what you're into on the weekends, and they know what you're really good at when you're not doing that. And the 8 sort of really has a look at everybody and is quite interested in the whole picture, because they're managing things.
Do you think we have our number by now?
Yeah, well, the 9 is the humanitarian. It's better if I put the meanings before looking at your numbers, because then it's more magic when we look at it and go, oh, that fits. Okay. But the 9 is a helper carer. They put a lot of time, they work in the health field, they're a good listener, governs empathy, a lot of humanitarian concepts wrap up through the 9 meaning. So I'm not going to look at dates any further than having said to you guys, things like the first letter can be interesting. I looked at the people in our group briefly beforehand. We've got Dr. Verada's not here. Veronica is here. The V is an important letter because it's the number 22. You've got master numbers 11, 22, on and on, which given special meanings. And the V is quite interesting. And if Matt was here, we've got the double T, which is a 22. So a couple of V's. the first letter matters. The vowel consonant factor is interesting, with the vowel seen as the inner, the consonants as the outer. They get a bit quirky into allocation, but the main weird one is the Y, which came up with Gary's example, where Y is considered as a vowel. I could even take it further as to say sometimes it's considered as a consonant, depending on the phonetic. Say the word yellow, the Y could be seen as a consonant in that structure because it's playing a consonant role in the word. Now, our birth dates is what we're going to look at. And the most important thing I'm going to give you, apart from a bit more on day numbers, is the personal year number, which is transits. And we start with transits. Is that cool now, Elena?
Is that the personal year number? So 76 for me. And what is it? Is that what you mean?
No, the personal year number, not from the birth date as such. It's a number that we get from some calculations that applies to this year. So it's a 2021 resonance individually, which is where it starts to get really amazing. And some of the stuff that I put in that reading for you, Elena, was based on personal year, personal month.
Give it an example among these people, otherwise it's just over our heads.
All right. So we still got Chris, because I haven't got Chris's face. I've run out of pictures. Is Chris still here?
And no, he was on, I think he had to leave. He was on Clubhouse, and I cannot see who's on Facebook because I'm doing the screen sharing, but they'll get that.
Oh, yeah, cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Let's use one of these.
All right. So what we need to do, well, firstly, we'll talk about the universal year number. So 2021 is the current year. And you add the digits of that up and you've got a 5. Yeah. So these things follow linearly. Like next year's a 6, last year was a 4. If you do the numbers, it'll work that way. And it goes around up to 9 and into 1 in the cycle over and over. I see it like a circle of growth. We go from 1 to 9, but we're not going around the block again. We're like one level higher and going around again. But so you can look, there's a couple of 2s. There's the 22, which is the master number with the V in Veronica. And the 22 is said to be impacting the very big picture. It's a big picture influence indicator, the 22. And we got that in the presence of 2 2s in the date. And with the year adds to number 5, which is the year of change and reimagining how we're going about things. And I think that in 5 periods, people are often forced into spontaneous behavior because their system just doesn't work anymore or isn't normal anymore. And I think every business has had to respond to those sorts of challenges with the COVID situation, to reinvent how we do it, like to get online instead of face-to-face, or to deliver things differently because to minimize contact and all of that sort of stuff.
Yeah, so Michael, here's a $1 million question. So 2021, of course, is a year of reimagining post-pandemic. We don't have a choice. But so could you say that this was already in the cards from history? We could have predicted that this was going to be a year of like almost like post-war, post something dramatic. Could we have read the signs or the writing on the wall before and planned for it, like in 2019, before we knew 2018, before we knew COVID existed? Could we
I do think so. Yeah, I do think so. I think the biggest thing, as I touched on a bit earlier, is the change from sort of 1999 to 2000.
Yeah.
Now, the number 1, just going back to the simple meanings of independence, initiative, leadership. If we looked at the balanced and the out of whack aspects of numbers, 1 loosely sits around that point of control / narcissism. Yeah. A really negative occurrence of a person with lots of 1s that didn't have them in check would literally conduct themselves without caring at all about anything else, just working from themselves. And it often goes along with control, authority, autocracy, those sorts of things. So we've had 1,000 years of it, whether it be church or state. We've been under the control in that format. Now, the number 2, out of whack, could govern all sorts of things like rebellion of mutiny or theft, denial of ownership, one has got a lot to do with ownership. This is mine. Two's got a lot to do with, I need a trailer. There's one. Let's take it and use it. So there's a lot of huge implications in our cultural shift. And one also governs high standards and values. A person with strong ones in their chart, they're the kind of person, or a Capricorn born in January, where you start to see the energies exaggerated in the meaning in their context. A strong ones in the chart, they really get upset if people don't turn up on time, or if the person shortchanges them by 5 cents, or, you know, it can be really, and it can decide someone's a bad person and never really want to talk to them again because of something they did or said or something like that. So that one's got this really strong control, high standards, and the two's a lot more anything goes. I think if you're going to be correctly intuitive about the present without resistance, it is what it is, not what it's supposed to be or meant to be or how it should be. It is what it is. And the twos have a lot of power by that intuitive flexibility there.
Makes sense.
It's quite deep, but I do think, and a 5 years certainly suggests that we're changing a lot of what we're doing. And the 22, the two twos in it suggests that it's big picture.
Okay, great. Since some people have to leave at the hour, what else can we expect from this year, 2021, based on what you know and you are teaching us about numbers?
Yep. Well, I'd like to jump into the personal year number, and I think we can get them all calculated by the hour, and then people can stay around for some questions and further flexible discussion on any part of it or clarification if you want after that. What I need everyone to do is to look at their birth date and add together all of the digits of the day and the month only. Like, for example, I'm born on the 3rd of May. So my day month total is 8. But all the digits, and if anyone doesn't get what I mean, just jump in and let me know.
Yeah. Okay, can you do mine? So 10, 19.
Yeah.
10 plus 19.
Yeah. So we've got 9 plus 1 plus 1 equals 11. Technically, it gets a master number meaning as well for being 11, but we add it through to a 2 as well. For this purpose, it's a 2, where we're getting the personal year number.
Okay, got it. Okay.
Right. So Shannon, is that 2 and 8? So you've got a 10 total, which reduces to a 1. If it's the 2nd of August or something like that. Yolanda adds to a 7.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Bernice adds to a 10, which adds to a 1. Right. So then we add that number onto the 5, which comes from 2021.
Okay, got it. So
we're creating a resonance that's our birth date plus the current year.
Okay, last current year, which is a 5.
Right. So now people can post the result. So what personal year you're in now?
So I'm a 6.
Bernice is in a 6. Gary's in a 3. Dr. Elena's in a 7. Yolanda's in a 3. Right. So I'm going to run through those really quickly and refer them to the meanings, and then we're going to more questions and things.
Are the meanings the same one that you posted up here? 0
yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
The 6 year is a time to take stock and restore balance.
Mm-hmm. Bernice, yeah.
The 3 year is an interesting one. It's whenever I'm in a 3 year, I try to have what I want to happen separate from what I need to happen, because we have to go with the flow a bit. Plans don't usually go exactly how we've got them in a 3 period, but the trick is to see that the outcome is even better and totally on track with our plan. The principle of the 3 is to go with the flow when it's a transit. To remain positive.
And Gary. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mentioned that because we've got 3 people in a personal 3 year.
Yeah.
The way 3 energizes is to socialize and to have fun, focus on beauty and communication with people. And so the 3s, also the project is really up and running by 3. Within that decade that you're in, 1 was the year of beginnings, 2 is the year of gestation and things start to become apparent. And 3 is take it to the people. It's time to let it out there. If it's a new business, it's the really initial marketing, sometimes the first customers, all that sort of stuff is in the 3. So it's not really a new project at the 3 point. It's things are really starting to get momentum and reveal themselves, and actually are quite exciting. That it's those conversations and communication in the 3 period go with the long lunches and all of the joy and beauty that goes along with positive planning process.
Fantastic, fantastic. Let's let Gary ask a question since he needs to leave. If he has one, everybody else hopefully can stay on longer. Go for it, Gary. Unmute.
Look, I think my question was just answered. It was whether it was really about people being in different stages during a particular year, and that's exactly where you've just headed. I was understanding that 5 for 2021 had a focus, but I was trying to relate that to everybody else, and you've just answered my question. So
Cool.
thank you.
Thanks, Gary. Yeah, the 5 is a universal, so that we're all subscribing to that a bit. That's the overall climate that we're in, and the personal year number is just where we're at in our projects and in our time. When people are in a 9 year, which I haven't got anyone in the close screen with the numbers on the chat box, but when we're in a 9 year, it's endings and preparations. Some things are just going to finish. It might be time to change the motor vehicle, time to move house, all that stuff. And the 1 is the new stuff that comes. With the 9, I touched on it sometimes, that you keep or throw things at the 9 period, and it governs caring about other people, our family, everything that matters. Put energy into it. It's that old universal principle of what you put energy into, you get more of. And so in the 9, we know what we want to stay, and we know what we've had enough of. And if the universe says you've had enough of it and you think you haven't had enough of it, but you can't change what's happened, then we have to try to find a way of looking at the new, not missing the old. When something like we might not have wanted to change cars that year, but we have to, those sorts of things. So that's the 9 we're headed to. And the 8 is a very interesting year, which none of us are in at the moment. But in the cycle in the 8, it's when I say to people, when they're in the 1 and they're like, where am I going? What am I doing? I'm like, you're starting something new. And they're like, but what? I always say, look back to the last 8 year, because you had maximum access to personal long-term vision at that point. So the vision year of the management of the whole project all becomes aware in the 8. And then the 9, we start doing the keep throw in order to get closer to that vision. And the 1 launches new aspects of it. So in a 7 year, Dr. Elena, that's a year to take stock spiritually and emotionally, and to do things on your own and enjoy your own company and your own wisdoms and your own inspirations. There's a lot of the 1 and the 7 are both quite private. The independence of the energy 1 and the time period 1. When we're starting something new, incidentally, in a 1 personal year, we don't want to tell all our plans to everybody. I'm not sure if people realize this, but in coaching, where we're all here with coaching and businesses, we try to reach our goals. When you're just starting something out, it's quite valuable not to tell everybody about it, till we've established our integrity, or else we've said we're going to do that and we don't do it, or we've said it to the wrong person and they've got the resources to do it faster than us, or something like that. Sure. The 7 is also a very private number, because our feelings, our spiritual stuff is fragile content area. And so we don't want to have that hurt or misunderstood by other people. And sometimes with all of the things that we go through, a certain quotient of it, we come to realize isn't for anyone else. And it's very important that we start to face those areas of our own life on our own, which is the homework. You know, some of our challenges can't be put on our partner or anybody. That we've just got to find a hill to sit on top of for half an hour and really face that challenge and learn through it. And so 7, also just going more broadly with the meanings, it governs all sorts of spiritual pursuit areas, people that are interested in hand healing, interpreting dreams, palmistry, you know, all kinds of esoteric interests. The field itself is not actually anti-Christian, but Christians are often not really interested in the esoteric for some good reasons. It's, as I said earlier, there's a lot of manipulation that can come through readings and things like that. And there's a lot of trickery that people worry about people getting into. But the meaning systems that I've worked with correlate quite a lot as well with Christian values. If I had a customer that was a staunch Christian, I would be able to talk about their birth chart in light of their values.
Right.
Both the 1 and the 7 are periods where we do lean a lot on our core values as well. But basically, that's something I'll do and touch on, the core values in the chart, because that affects our compatibilities, our career choices and things. The numbers that we have in the chart next to these meanings, if we reflect on it a bit, we start to understand these things do matter to us a bit more than someone else. Like restoring the balance for someone with a 6-day number might be a lot more important than somebody that isn't focused on how balanced anything is. And the imagination that comes through with a strong 5, that's not something that some people can get at all. They might even think we're crazy if we're too imaginative. So we just got to get it across in a helpful way and keep the rest of it to ourselves. And another aspect of it all, and compatibility, is you can meet someone with very similar numbers to yourself. Like if you're full of 5s and you're very imaginative and you're into aliens and all sorts of complicated imaginative things, you when you're dealing with another 5, they're there too. You can go there. It only changes when someone else walks in the room or something like that. And with management energy, with the 8,
Right.
CEOs and things.
Thank you so much, and welcome, Shizad. You're just a little late, but that we'll do our best to catch you up. Michael, you're doing great. Bernice has a question. Do you have any experience with the enneagram? I'm probably misspelled.
Yep. I checked it out. I got a couple of books on it. I decided that it's perfectly feasible and accurate, and that it was someone else's interest area. I didn't go particularly into it too deeply myself past checking the book out. It's really interesting stuff.
What is that? What is that? Is that like where you check if 2 people are compatible, 2 or more? What's the enneagram?
Bernice, you're into it, yeah?
Unmute, Bernice.
Sorry, yeah, very much so. Because I was taught it many years ago by a student of one of the Jesuit priests who wrote one of the books on the Enneagram. So I got an indirect knowledge of it. It's definitely not about relationships. In fact, when you talk about the numbers and relationships, the dance is just always different. You can never say this number doesn't go with this number or this number doesn't go with this number, because humans are all complex beings. And so the dance is different. So for example, my number is a number 2 on the Enneagram. My husband is a number 6. It's got nothing to do with anything. It's just us doing our dance. So that's about relationships. But yeah, no, I was just interested because the reason I asked that is because to me, that just the Enneagram hones in very, 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 very specifically on personalities. And and that's all it is. It's personalities based on actions. And I find it fascinating, but it's limited to that.
The diagnostic is like a questionnaire type approach, isn't it?
The diagnostic is a questionnaire, but it's self-questionnaire. So people who are most successful with finding out their number on the Enneagram are the ones who self-reflect and who do it on themselves honestly. So other people have said to me, oh, no, you're not like that. Oh, no, you're not like that. But that's not it. It's how I'm answering the question.
Mm-hmm. If you were to take the ingredients of a numerology chart, like your ruling number, day number, your totals of all your vowels in your birth name, and all these things, and you put them on a piece of paper and say, these are the ingredients that I've got. And then we look at it and we sort of say, there's a lot of this, there's a little bit of this. Oh, there's none of that. I don't have much 7 stuff at all in my whole chart or whatever. Different people in numerology have got different approaches to working out resultant energies. Like if you've got all this, say you were to put it through a little computer program and come out with a number that involved adding and plussing everything on that, and it was the more dominant number. And I believe that questionnaires like the Enneagram one are brilliant in, like you say, for people that are self-aware. With any questionnaire, what's the point in lying if it's meant to help us get to the bottom of something? But you get through that and you work out your resultant energy. I love it. I think the meanings are really good. How are you? It's been a while since I've checked out specifically the Enneagram meanings. Bernice, did you see the 9 meanings I put up there? How
Close.
well?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
What was your, what did you say?
Yeah. You saw the 9 number meanings we put in the chat box. How similar are the meanings to the ones in the Enneagram, would you say?
Okay, so the 2 is an exact, which I did mine while you were talking in the beginning. I added up my Hebrew name, which I've done many times, but I've never done my English name. So I did my English name and my Hebrew name, and I broke them down, and they both come down to the exact same numbers. So that to me was fascinating. But that is number 2, and that on the Enneagram almost exclusively matches up. That intuition, that it's almost an exact match. Number 1, independence, and is more in tune with it. Number 3 is not at all. Number 3 on the Enneagram are goal-oriented people. Completely different. It's not necessarily, in fact, they're not that flexible. They're not that communicative. They're not that joyous, and they're not that social.
All right.
So 3 does not match up.
That's brilliant. Look, I talked about balanced and out of whack energies, and I'll straight admit there are a lot of problems with 3s. And this is a prescription for a 3, to be honest. But it's not just a prescription. When the 3 learns about flexibility, they step into a much higher self. They are amazing. And the 3 has a very, very quick mind, and they have a big problem with their nervous system sometimes. It depends on their faith factor. If they don't have a faith factor, then they're a scientist. And if they have a faith, I used to say 3, the number of the scientist or the bimbo. That's what I used to say. It was either, oh, whatever they say, I'll go with that. Or, how do you know this doesn't make sense? You know, but they can be very brutal. And the big problem with 3 is within that joy social arena, they're still an odd number. Like the odd numbers are said to be masculine and the even numbers are said to be feminine. And the odd number with the 3, they're still guarded, and you could almost say two-faced. All that happy joy la is sometimes, their objectivity is perhaps very strong underneath that. But they resonate as disappointed if they are in a negative state. And that is when they are not going with the flow. So that's why I put flexibility as a core thing for the 3, because going with the flow actually metaphysically is the answer to the woes of the 3, I believe. You know, and numerology will put often that it's a very social conversative number. If you look at universal day numbers 3s, there's been research by numerologists to show more cars on the freeways, more traffic on day numbers 3 universally. So it's a get out and about resonance in this system, but I appreciate that. How the rest of them, how are they sitting? Pretty well? You've gone mute again, I think.
The rest of them, let me look. 4, also the opposite, not focused, not productive, and no boundaries. So it's almost the opposite. With 4, it's like literally the opposite. With 5s, you have more, 5s are more intellectuals on the Enneagram. So I don't know, 5s could match up a bit. The innovation and change, yes. 6s, again, could be like a flip side of what they need to actualize, because the Enneagram, the 6s tend to be out of balance, responsible and irresponsible, and communal and sometimes not communal. 7s are on the Enneagram, these words are not usually used. On the Enneagram, the 7 is fun and joyous and irresponsible at times, very smart, very clever, but almost like, you know, Loki, the mythical god of mischief. That's a 7, typical on the Enneagram. 8s are aggressive on the Enneagram. They are, I guess aggressive is the number 1 word that describes them. And 9s are grounded on the Enneagram. The 9 is the grounded one, you know, like a peaceful kind of a person. And we don't have a 0 on the Enneagram.
Yeah, I looked at it and I thought that it was very, very interesting field, the Enneagram. It comes down to the practicality of why we're looking at it, where it sits. Those 9 number meanings for everyone, they are so oversimplified. There is so much to go into as you explore it. With 8, for example, I mean, the Chinese people see it as a fortunate, lucky number. Am I right there, Veronica? Are you with us on that?
She has a question as well.
Well, let's go there. Veronica, how are you doing and what's the question?
Unmute, Veron.
Yes, I put it there. I asked you 2 questions.
Yeah.
One is, what does a house number do? And
I like
then
the
the
way-
second, yeah, and the second question is, you mentioned that V is 22, a master number. What does that mean, really?
Yeah, 2 really good questions. The house number is, I like the way you put it. What does it do? Because this is the thing. You end up, if you look at your life and you write all the numbers down, I'll get people saying to me, so what do I get from my Medicare number? What does it mean? And so it's a matter of a number in a situation. And so the meaning of the house number would have a lot to do with the journey that we're going to take on at that premises. I've heard it said that people really do want to choose number 8 house residence if they are ambitious in business. And my previous house was an 11 residence, and this one where I'm at now is an 8 residence. And I did a decade in the previous one, and I've done 3 or 4 years here now. For example, I just feel incredibly more business oriented and motivated under this 8 residence than I did in my last house. I just think that it's like a flavor of the environment, and there are lots of different things we can do with our stuff and ourself to merge into that flavor environment. Obviously, we're attracted to that house without knowing its number, really. We look at a picture of it, or we want to live there, or it's come our way. The interesting thing about numerology is I back away from using it as a decision-making method, but I fully embrace it as a after the fact, wow, and it's got this number. I wonder what that also says about it. So you can look a lot more into it, but I wouldn't normally look into the house number as a reason to take something on or not. But having said that, there are a couple of 3-digit numbers that I wouldn't touch, but there are books on it that explore just the house numbers and what exactly, like, for example, there are some strange correlations. People say for the house residence is 7, there's a very strong chance, and I'm confident to say this because I've checked it out, very strong chance you'll get a lot of plumbing problems. And then you look at the meaning 7, and it's like mystical, healing, spiritual, the journey there. And it's also correlates a lot with water. They say that if a 7 wants to do self-development on their own, it's enhanced by being done near water. And then you've got other correlations like the 2 and the 7 governed by the moon, and they're links with water. And it just keeps on, the meaning can keep going. So I guess I'd look in a house meaning whether it was a private or a business premises. And if it was a business premises, I'd certainly, if I did have a choice and it came down to looking at the numbers, I'd go towards an 8 more so. But 4s can be very productive premises. That's a bit on it. Have you got a house number you want me to try and give you something on?
Yes. 3.
3, yeah. I grew up in house number 3. It's probably a little bit academic, intellectual, in the mind potential, and also sociable. It's good for communication, and would also be either existing as or greatly enhanced by beautification. It's a premises that would be, I think, its proper self in its most aesthetic form. Does that so how good it would be a nice looking place, ideally, or we do what we can to make it beautiful, and it's a good place. 6 is more hospitality as such, but the 3 is a good place for the social interactions, and it might even be via Zoom and online that all that socializing happens through that house. But there's a couple of things on the 3 house, and the master number 22 is the symbol of it is it's seen to be involved in the bigger picture, and quite often accidentally. It's not that we seek out to become the prime minister or the head of an organization that changes everything, but we might know someone and we might have a chat with them and they might make their mind up about something, and they might happen to be a major judge or something, and they could use what your chat with them might end up influencing the fate of a lot of things afterwards. So the 22 touches the big picture, is the simple meaning of it. And in terms of character and style, it's a bit of a challenge. There's some because 2 governs almost telepathy, a bit of emotional predicament of others. It's another 2 and 9 both have a lot of empathy. So with the 2 2s, it's a larger empathy. And so if something goes crazy in the world, or a lot of people are in panic in a situation, you could, a person with the 22 present could pick up on it quite strongly, and they might have a mood drop. Like you might be in a perfectly good mood and then find a really challenging mood comes in. This is very commonly observed with the 22. And at that point, it's a matter of just accepting that things go that way and it'll work through. It's something much bigger, and we just have to put our heart into going that flow and accommodating the energies that have rushed in somehow that are important. Does that sit at all there, the 22 stuff?
Yeah, thank you.
Very nice, Michael.
Interesting.
This is not easy to do on a public group format because it's so detailed and slightly different for everybody. So I just wanted to say, please join our private Facebook group free. Michael is on there and will be able to follow up with any of you that may be watching the replay anywhere, so that it can relate to you a bit more. Although there are some general, as you learned today, some general trends for everybody because of the particular year we are in. Okay, so I'm sure you'll come up with more questions later as you reflect on it. Michael, you're doing great. How do you feel?
I'm feeling good. It is just trying to make sure that everyone personalizes it to the point of relevance.
Yeah.
We don't know ourselves as well as we think we do. Sometimes someone else might know us better than we even know ourselves. And we pursue relationships in different contexts. Sometimes we have to work with that person. Sometimes we can choose which person we want to work with.
Sure.
We get our partners. I think it's great to look into it more and deepen the relationship, but I don't recommend systems like this in choosing a partner. Like, oh, I need someone with another day number 5. No, relationship experts say the older we get, when we're on our 3rd spouse or whatever, we get more and more interested in compatibility. And the younger we are, we're more and more bold about the love that we can have with someone that's so different from us. And there are a lot of crash points in that journey. I think, and some people, they're in love with love, and they might have a lot of 6s in their chart. 6, by the way, seen as the number of marriage, and people with strong 6s are more inclined to settle into that strong, permanent-ish structure. Yeah. So,
what did you learn, Michael, just doing this presentation, quote unquote, live? What did you learn? Yeah, there's no right or wrong. What did you learn? Anything new presenting this very delicate material and quite complex?
Yeah, it's I've enjoyed very much the input of everyone because it is a great group of people. I was saying to my housemate when I was drafting it up, these people are smart and they know themselves and they're coaches or they're working on business. So I was looking at I suppose one of the things I tried to achieve was to break down the alienation perhaps of the field of numerology, for if someone knows into it or whatever, it's out there. The personal year number stuff's really useful. And I think it can really help everyone because in the year that we're in, you can really tune a little bit big choices that you have to make towards what you do know the year is really about and not about.
Yeah.
It's with energy work, it's very important to note that there are distractions. The wrong energy can still be knocking on our door, and it's up to us to choose the right one. The more we get in tune with what we are trying to do. This is where the importance of goals and coaching and being conscious about what we're currently trying to achieve. And also those meditative sessions within the coaching where you reflect on it, what really isn't working, or which part of my life do I need to focus on this week? Going through that, and the personal year and month can really help. I don't lean on them these days. I wanted to live without leaning on the system. But if I'm ever in a real mess, like the van's broken down, everything's gone crazy, I'll go straight into the numbers and have a look. Quite often we're on a track that isn't going to get us where we're going to be. And it's the time now to realize that and to recorrect our course. The input of other people when it seems distracting may not be wrong.
Mhm.
They might be attending to a part of what we're into now that we're not looking at, but it is important. So the diversity in our team of people and the inputs that we have, we'll try and embrace them all. And I try with my approach to the numbers to warm to all of the 9 areas. You know, if it is a person that's just objective and interested in their own gain from the situation, or a person wants to change the color of everything and rename everything because they want it to look differently, you get these sorts of people and you think, well, okay, I was happy with it, but if you think more people are going to love it if we call it this, and you're really into that, then maybe, you know, we'll let that through from you, you know. So we're all different parts of the team. And any more questions anyone's got in the last 5 minutes or so?
This is great. I will copy and paste again the private Facebook group. So for our intercontinental masterminds, so that you all can continue interact and one-on-one or as a group. So, and Michael's contacts are on there as well, unless you want to give them also publicly here, Michael.
Yeah, I will. I'll pop my email up in the chat box.
Great. Yeah,
Like,
thank you. Yes, and next month Mastermind is going to have a new topic, and based on your request, it's all going to be on online marketing. Very good. Thank you, Michael, for your email. This was great. We are this year is unprecedented. This type of mastermind is unprecedented. And thank you for allowing us to challenge you. You rose to the occasion as always. You gave us so much. And let's let it percolate in our fine minds and big hearts. And I'm sure we'll come up with more good food for thoughts for our own selves. We're all a family here, and all of us. Yes.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Elena, and thanks everyone for participating. And yeah, I've enjoyed a lot every mastermind I've attended. Your topics are great, and it was an honor to be sort of added to that list with this. And this is a previous business of mine, so it's not really a commercial plug as such. I really hope that you got something from it, and it was fascinating. The enneagram bit was fascinating. There are so many different systems, and they cross through, but it comes back to their different objectivities and contexts.
Nice. And it sounds like you also got some new insights from all of us, and that's what it is all about. So 2021, we're almost half through the year, but the best is yet to come.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you, everybody, and have a wonderful rest of the week. And we will see you on Mondays for our group coaching. See you then.
Awesome.
Thank you, Elena. Thank you, Michael.
Great. Let me.
Well, Veronica and Shannon, thanks, guys.
Wonderful.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you. Bye. Let me stop the Facebook. Okay, 1 second. Make sure I did that. One moment. Stop live stream. Okay, I think I did. Okay, it's just me and you.